I just had to take some time to run the hand plane across the surface just to see what kind of character lay underneath this walnut. I was pleasantly surprised. I picked up these slabs from a guy by the name of Richard Young, a local central Kentucky guy that runs a sawmill about 20 minutes from where I live, and so I'll put his name in the description and his Instagram handle if you live locally and you want to check him out. I kept moving along and debarked with a chisel, and then had the slabs sitting around for a couple weeks, maybe a month, while I came up with a way to flatten these. I decided to build this slab flattener, and I had seen the idea on Instagram from a fellow woodworker. And if you're interested in one of these, send me a message or just comment below and I'll send across his information. There was definitely a learning curve to this sled, and I definitely went too deep initially, but with a brand new 2-inch bit, it wasn't really a problem. I eventually transitioned to a larger diameter bit with the carbide inserts, which was a 2 1/4 diameter bit, and I'll put both of those bits down in the description if you're interested in those. There was a large cavity in the slab that I needed to fill, and I had initially tried the epoxy that I had on hand, but since it was not a thick pour epoxy, I ended up getting cracks, which wasn't a huge deal as I'd be covering it up with the final layer of epoxy. I started the process of creating the miter and made another error in the project by not realizing my track saw was actually set to 22.5 degrees instead of 45. I made another final 45-degree cut to finally get the miter that I would ultimately end up with to get the continuous grain effect from the seat of the bench to the leg portion. When it came time to join the pieces together to create the miter, my only option was my biscuit joiner. Not my first choice, but you obviously use what you have to get the job done. Clamping a 45-degree miter can be a difficult task. I learned this technique from Matt Cremona. And if you're not familiar with him and his videos, he's a really awesome, inspirational woodworker. And so I'll leave a link to his video on how to use the cauls to clamp a 45-degree miter. I debated on what would go best with the walnut, and I wanted to do a steel opposing leg, but I'm not a metal worker, so I opted for a maple trapezoid, and I decided to give it some unique lines. And comment down below how you think this turned out. I used my mini crosscut sled and the table saw to get the angles just right on the end grain for the top of the trapezoid. When it came to completing the void, I purchased a small amount of clear thick pour epoxy and colored that with a steel pigment, and I think the color goes really well with the walnut. I assembled and glued up the top and the sides, and then worked on the bottom piece to finalize the opposite side leg base. When it came to sanding the top, I had just purchased the new Festool cordless sander, and I was excited to use that tool. I also used up to 1200 grit, and I'll tell you what, that was a very smooth bench in the end. Around this same time, I purchased the Festool domino, so I had two other projects I needed that for. The domino would have been very handy for the miter joint, but keep in mind this was a 4 to 6 month project, and so use what you have at the time, as I mentioned earlier. Once the sanding was complete, I decided to go with the Odie's oil for the finish. And kind of funny story, I was called out on Instagram by the company. I had tagged them and they had called me out for applying it incorrectly. So be careful if you use the product and you post on social media and you tag them. I did appreciate their suggestions, and they had a really good video on proper techniques and how to kind of conserve on the Odie's oil so that it will last a long time. I really love how the grain and the epoxy really popped. So there you have it, folks. The live edge bench with the maple base with these lines here. You know, it was quite a journey to get to this point. I had these slabs sitting in my shop for what felt like forever. And a lot of that was just figuring out how to flatten them, and when I came up with a solution, things kind of started to move a lot quicker at that point. But I did enjoy this project, and it was one of my favorites. You know, despite the challenges, obviously that's not a big deal because we learn from those and we become better woodworkers from the obstacles that we face. But I appreciate you guys and gals sticking around to watch the video. Go on and get subscribed if you're not already. Smash the like button, as they like to say, and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of it. And until next time, remember to go shape some wood, and we'll see you again soon.